For many of us property investors, we'll face a time in our investment journey where we're low on money. In fact, if you don't face that as a problem, are you even developing and growing your portfolio quick enough? For many of us, we've had to be creative with money, whether that's for our first property purchase or whether that's for additional property purchases. So in this video, I wanted to share the top ways that you might not have considered in order to release money and fund your next property purchase. Now, number one is to remortgage your own home. If you're like me, then you might have used your own home as a form of investment over the years. Now, strictly speaking, a home isn't actually an investment, it's a liability, as you have to actively go out and earn money to cover your mortgage each month. But taking property politics and opinions out of the equation just for a minute, your home can be a great place to store and build equity. Therefore, your home can be a great place to raise additional capital from. And let me explain this with an example. You see, I saved money from the age of 17 years old to the age of 23 years old to purchase my first property with my partner. Some months this meant saving just £50, yet some months we could save £500. But regardless, I kept my head down. I knew one day I'd own a home, which was my only goal back then. Once we'd saved up enough, we purchased that first property, which is a one-bedroom flat, for £165,000. Years later, after doing the upgrades and work to the property and living there for some time, the flat was now valued in the region of £200,000 to £210,000. Now at this point, we actually decided to sell up and move to the bungalow that we've recently renovated. But had we decided to stay at the property, at the flat, I might have considered refinancing the property in order to release capital for future property investments. Given that we bought the property with a 10% deposit, obviously we bought it for £165,000, so we put down £16,500 as the deposit. Well, now that deposit has risen to £51,500 to £61,500 due to the increase in the flat's value. Obviously, I want to caveat here quickly, I'm not including any of the money that I spent on refurbishing the flat. I'm simply keeping the numbers simple for the example purposes. But if I decided to do the maximum possible refinance to the flat, take it up to £210,000 and leave 10% deposit in, which would be £21,000, I could now withdraw the other part as equity from the property, which is in the region of £40,500, obviously minus the refinance costs, the early repayment charges, etc. But result, I now have another buy-to-let deposit or chunk of money that I could put towards another property or a refurbishment just from that refinance. That's the power of a refinance. And if you'd like more information, more in-depth examples about refinancing your property, then there is another video which I'll link up here. Now, the next option you have is either a second charge or a further advance, which are somewhat similar products. Now, you might be thinking, what on earth are those? Well, for those of you that were interested in that last point that I just mentioned about using capital in your own home, well, this is an additional spin on that. Let's use an example to best explain this. Let's say that you have £20,000 in equity that you've built up in your home since owning it. However, you are only 2 years into a 5-year fixed term mortgage. Well, if you refinance now, you'll have to pay something called an early repayment charge, which might be a penalty fee of 3 or 4% of the overall debt that you have on the property, plus other additional costs like a broker fee or your product arrangement fees. This whole cost could literally come to like £7,000 just to exit that product early and release the £20,000 in equity that you wanted to, which would then leave you with like £13,000. So it's just not really worth it. However, this is where Justin, the fairy godmother of property, steps in to tell you that there is an alternative option. You can explore the option of a further advance or a second charge on your property, which in short, this is just a way of releasing capital from your property without the additional upheaval and cost of doing a full refinance on your property. Now, the best way to find out if this is possible for you and to execute this is actually just by talking to your mortgage broker. It's as simple as that, so I won't go into any more detail there. Option number 3 is to raise private finance. But what does that actually mean? We hear this term thrown around loads. Well, simply put, it's borrowing a set amount of money for an agreed period of time at an agreed percentage of interest on that loan. So just like a business would raise money to invest in a company, well, a property investor can raise funds to do flips, to do BRR, buy, refurbish, refinance deals, or even development deals that they are completing on. If you've ever heard of me talking about this topic before, then you'll know that I believe it's very, very important to have experience and to have knowledge prior to raising private investors' finance, as you are now liable for the loan that you're taking on from the investor, and you need to provide them with some element of security. But with that said, if you are in a position where you can effectively utilize the capital, purchase good deals, complete on good deals, then raising finance is a fantastic way to continue growing your portfolio. In fact, it's the main way that I continue to do BRR or flip deals myself, factoring in the cost of borrowing and utilizing investors' funds. As always, this is not financial advice, so please take extreme care when borrowing or lending money, but it's a fantastic option that is available to you. Next up is joint ventures, and I'll spend a very short amount of time here because I'm sure many of you have heard about joint venture partnerships. But if you have not, then quickly listen up. A joint venture partnership is a commercial agreement, usually between two or more participants, that decide to open and operate a business together, whether that's general business or property business. Typically, joint venture partnerships in the property industry are between two participants, and this can be a 50-50% split of capital going in versus the profits coming out. But there are also many businesses operated as 75, 25% or 100-0% split, where one party provides 100% of the funds and 0% of the work, and the other party provides 0% of the funds but 100% of the work. And this is a great way of purchasing additional properties without the need for the full amount of capital available for either the purchase of the property or the refurbishment. So joint ventures can be a fantastic way to continue the development of your portfolio. Next up is bridging and development finance. Okay, bridge financing is a form of temporary financing intended to cover a company's short-term costs until the moment when regular long-term financing is secured. Hence the name bridging, as it's often, bridging a gap at the end of the day. Whereas development finance is a short-term funding option that is usually for between 6 to 24 months, and it is designed specifically to assist with the purchase costs and the build costs associated with some kind of residential or commercial development project that you have going on. Although these are two very different types of finance, I have included them together as they offer a similar benefit for investors. Either A, the property is not mortgageable and you don't have the funds to cover the full purchase yourself, or B, you have the funds for the purchase but not for the refurbishment. And this is where bridging or development finance can actually come in to help you with that next purchase. Typically, when using bridging, you still need to put down, around 25 or 30% deposit, and then you might have a 70 to 75% on bridging finance. But this can be changed in your favor depending on the lender and the rates. For some examples, you can get 20% down, 80% lending, or in some cases, even 100% finance lending. Bridging finance is usually used to cover the purchase of the property, whereas development finance is often the additional bit of money and financing that you'd take to fund the works itself. Now, also typically, development finance is actually used on larger projects, such as new builds, commercial to resi conversions, or even large HMO projects. And there you have it. That is the 5 great ways to purchase your next buy-to-let without having lots of capital available. If there is anything that you think I've missed, then please do add it in the comments below. I always love to hear what you think. Thank you for watching, and as always, I'll see you next week.